What were you doing when you were 16? Probably not building an entire Salesforce org from scratch, right? Well, our guest today did just that. I'm Talia Johnson, co-leader of the Salesforce user group of Gainesville, Florida, and I'd like you to meet Joe De Oliveira. Now 23, an AI-savvy Senior Salesforce Admin, and someone who speaks 4 languages, including the secret language of Salesforce flow errors. If you think AI-powered automation is the future, Joe is already living it. Today, we're diving into his story, his expertise, and why you need to hear what he has to say at our upcoming event. Let's get into it. Joe, I'm so happy to have a chance to speak to you today. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I want to start off by asking the question that I'm sure is on everyone's mind. What made you take on the challenge of building a Salesforce org at 16?
Yeah, good question. I think at the time I was just young, dumb, and broke. So fundamentally, it just came down to me being blissfully ignorant as to what I was getting myself into. And on top of that, I'm a pretty stubborn person. So I think a combination of those two things kind of resulted in me just sticking with it.
And as you were doing it, was there a moment when you realized, wow, I'm really good at this? Or was it always just a struggle?
Yeah, I've never really had that sort of realization like, wow, I'm really good at this. I think I've always been different than most people. So the realization I came to was like more so that I've realized, hey, like it's okay to be different. Let me just embrace that. Um, my brain tends to work quite differently than most people. And that honestly aligns quite well with the work that I do now. So yeah, never really had that realization, but something considerably close.
And then at some point you realized that maybe you could do this as a career. When did that happen?
Um, well, I can't really talk about the specifics, but I had some success in my career pretty early on, and I needed something to do with my time. Um,
How old were you at this beginning of your career,
I was
approximately?
19,
Yeah.
um, and I decided to start my own consultancy. Through that process, um, I worked on close to 65 different projects over the course of the next 3 years. Um, I ended up leaving consulting just because I did not like how transactional the projects and relationships became. So if I wanted to, if I noticed something that was wrong, I didn't have the authority to go and fix it, right? And if I'd ask, it was always, we brought you in for this one, project, just focus on that. Um, okay, cool, suit yourself. I don't really work like that. So I think for me, what the offer that I got during that sort of transition process really appealed to me. And that's, essentially a senior Salesforce admin slash product owner.
Right.
And that's where I am now. And my org is now my baby. Um, Nothing happens in my org without me knowing. And if something's wrong, I have the freedom and the authority to go and fix it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, if someone only had 30 seconds to understand what you do, you tell people I am a senior Salesforce admin, and most of your friends have this, quizzical look on their face. How do you explain it in 30 seconds?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't have a great answer for you, but I will say, like, I just tell my family, if somebody ever asks what I do for a living, Just tell them that I design and build software, automations, and then AI for businesses. Uh, can't get more simple than that.
Totally. That makes a lot of sense. So we've been hosting Agent Force community tour events, speaking of AI, and we had one in January that you led, and we're having another one this Saturday. Agent Force is still pretty new, though, to a lot of people, even in the Salesforce ecosystem. What makes it such a game changer for Salesforce professionals, and why should they care about it?
Yeah, I think first of all, they shouldn't just care about it because it's the new sort of shiny product from Salesforce. I think that's where a lot of people's interest comes from. Um, if that's your main interest in it, then you're going to have a fun time. Um, I think it's something that they should care about because it solves real industry specific problems that typical generic solutions just can't address. Um, so, the best tools don't just look good on a slide deck, in my opinion. They create measurable impact. So with that being said, I think Agent Force increases, efficiency, uh, improves data accuracy, enhances client engagement. Um, all of those things translate to real business outcomes, not just like a marketing buzz. So once people understand that, I think that's where genuine interest is going to come from. More specifically, Agent Force, at least for me, it helps streamline time consuming tasks um, by integrating automation and AI into my users' everyday workflows. It helps them to focus more on their high value activities rather than just being
Absolutely.
stuck on the administrative work.
Absolutely. And as people are dipping their toes into Agent Force and Salesforce AI, meaning Salesforce professionals, what do you see are some of the biggest misconceptions that people have?
That it's easy. I think that is a marketing tactic. It works. I think it has its place, but don't jump into this thinking that it's easy and you can just kind of turn on a button and everything's going to work specifically for your business just by doing that.
Right.
It requires quite a lot of planning. And on top of that, I think people, especially leadership teams, kind of jump to the conclusion um, that for whatever reason, they don't trust it.
Mm,
I think that's another misconception. You know, um, people have no reason not to trust it, but because it's AI,
right.
um, that's the first thought.
Yeah. People are fallible all the time. So we trust people more than we trust AI sometimes, but that isn't necessarily the best idea. Um, so I was thinking about your work and what you've done with Salesforce. What is a trick or workflow that people think is complicated, but is actually super simple once you know it?
Yeah, I'd have to go with flow. Um,
Hmm.
once you understand flow, yeah, it can get really complex, but once you understand the sort of foundational building blocks,
That secret
it's
language you were
pretty
talking
pretty
about.
easy. Yeah, yeah, the secret language. Now, when you get into the flow errors, that can be a pain, but you know, very simple flows can be super effective.
Yeah. So you've optimized some pretty complex orgs. Um, and in particular, the one at Whiteboard Risk where you work right now. And can you share something that is particularly impressive that you've automated yourself?
Yeah, so we have a pretty complex screen flow. We use it to as a sort of triage intake to triage and process our clients' employees that have been injured. within workers' comp insurance. And essentially, what that does is whenever somebody calls, their contact record is pre-populated into the flow, along with prior case history. So we know basically who they are and everything that's happened to them in the past before, like right when they call.
Right.
And from then, we're able to create a new claim or a case, as well as dispatch a triage injury technician. Think of it like AAA, but for nurses. And we're able to dispatch that technician within the span of 5 minutes of receiving a call.
Wow. That is impressive. So I know in the greater world, a lot of people are talking about AI replacing jobs within the Salesforce ecosystem and out there in the world in other industries and careers. But what is your take on that whole AI replacing jobs?
I think it'll be a while. As long as you're not a developer, I think you're good. Um, I think, at least for the work that I do, there still needs to be a human at the end of the line controlling and processing and managing
Right,
the software at the end of the day.
right.
So whether
Someone with
that,
skills. You need the
yeah,
skills that you have to be able
100%,
to power this.
100%.
Okay.
I don't see a world where, you know, unless we're talking like AGI, which is years in the future. I don't see
Mm,
a world where somebody like me is not or is no longer needed. Um,
yeah. I appreciate all the details about your work and what you do. And I just wanted to get more personal and ask you something. I know that you're kind of an automation buff or, nerd or whatever you want to call it, but what is some of the coolest or weirdest automations you've built, whether inside or outside of Salesforce?
yeah, I'd have to go with weird, so let's go with outside of Salesforce. I built an automation that it was a smart home automation that basically turned the lights on in my house. Um, they would turn on from uh, east to west, or west to east rather. Basically, as the sun rose,
Right,
the sun's position in the sky would dictate what lights were turned on and when. Um, Literally, there was no use case for that other than the fact that I was bored one day
right.
and thought that that was a cool idea. So yeah, I I built
That
that,
is that
and
is
then
very
I
cool.
moved.
Right.
Here's the thing: I moved, and the entire automation broke.
Oh my gosh.
So, yep,
Now, just to, jump back a minute and to understand you as a person, even further back, um, we mentioned that you speak four languages, including the secret language of Salesforce Flow, but how did you come to know those three other languages and what was that about?
yeah. So I was born and raised in South Africa. So just like you would learn Spanish here, I
Mm,
grew up learning English, Afrikaans, and Zulu. Um, those were required languages that I had to take during school.
right,
And then my grandfather is also Portuguese, so I had to learn Portuguese, and I ended up actually playing soccer in Portugal too.
right.
So um, yeah,
No, it
it's
looks like you actually speak five languages then. My mistake. That would be Afrikaans, English, Zulu, Portuguese, and then that secret language
well, I
of the
tell people
flows.
five because I can kind of sort of speak Spanish. I took it in
Right.
high school.
Hmm.
Don't remember much, but it counts.
Yeah, yeah. It's in there. Okay, so to wrap up, Joe, if someone is still on the fence about attending our event on Saturday, what's the one thing you would say to convince them?
A good question. Um, I would say if you're somebody that's looking for hands-on experience and somebody to guide you through something pretty complex, I would definitely recommend attending the session. If you're looking for some real world use cases of Agentforce, I would highly recommend coming to the session.
Yep.
I will be demoing some of the things that I've built and some of the things that my users use on a daily basis. So yeah, with that, I would say, even if you don't know anything about it, I would still encourage you to come, because you might learn something new.
Yep. Yeah, well, there you have it, straight from the automation wizard himself. If you are looking for hands-on training or experience with Agentforce tools and Salesforce AI, you can come to our event. You will also get a sneak peek into the org that Joe has built, which is highly automated and utilizes a ton of different AI tools. Now, if you are looking for Agentforce, Prompt Builder, or Flow, this is your chance. So trust me, you don't want to miss it, because we might accidentally not record it and you will be disappointed. So I hope to see you there. Thank you so much, Joe.
Yeah,
I'll see
thank you
you on
so much,
Saturday.
Talia. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Looking forward to
bye.
it. Bye.